The Slammers get their first win of the league, and the Crushers keep on making statements. Let's talk ball.
We're talking baseball, and today's was the butter. We're talking baseball, and today's was the butter.
Hey, I'm Sean McCauley. This is a View from the Bullpen, and we are at the end of week 6. 6 weeks into the league. Let's get straight into it today. The Runners away to the Syndicate. We're at Battery Bay, day 1 of week 6. Kepler keeping his spot against the Runners. Look, I'm not sure about this one. He's just not having a great time lately. But hey, that's why I'm doing a podcast and not running a team. Okay? But he does get caught out early with a couple of steals. He walks Da Vinci. I don't know. Maybe I'm right on this one. He drops the ball from a bat hit and allows 2 runs in the first. From a bad hit. 2 runs in the first. It's another bad start for him. How long are they going to keep going back to him? He's just not ready for this league. As far as I'm concerned, he's just not quite there. How long are they going to keep trusting this guy to start games for them? I'm not saying get him out of the team. I'm not saying get rid of him. I'm just saying maybe he needs to take a back seat for a little bit. Maybe take some relief innings. I don't know, man. I don't know. It doesn't really get any better in the second. Faraday comes in so early. The Runners just start building a lot of confidence. They look to steal on almost every pitch in the second. Okay, they are full of beans. Franklin comes in the 4th. The Syndicate just really have no idea what they're doing. They don't know how to organize their bullpen. They don't know how to play against any of the other teams in this league. I am at a loss with this team. The Syndicate and the Slammers, 2 teams having a horrible time right now, and there's no solution in sight for either of them. They're propping up the league, and I think that's where they deserve to be. To be fair to Franklin, she starts getting something going, okay? And it gives Lovelace a little bit of momentum too. She catches a couple of nice balls in the outfield that aren't the easiest. Gets a run in too. She's staying pretty disciplined at the plate, pulls a walk late on. She's having a really good week. But the Syndicate just don't look great. But this later game team did look a little bit better than the start. And I have to put that on Kepler. DiBondone, though, for the Runners, having a much better time. The Runners overall, they seem to be on the up and up. Caravaggio having a great game out there. He just knows where to put the ball to rack up the hits. I really liked what I saw from him this week. He's definitely making the highlight reel. Ike doesn't come in until the 7th, so DiBondone getting time to play, and there's no reason not to, because he's playing really well right now. But Ike comes in to continue the form, lets a couple of stray balls fly, but, Barty's in the outfield. He has no trouble picking them up. Overall, they look more organized. They look more settled. They might bloom late in this league, so let's hope they don't leave it too late. They really need to get some momentum, though, right? Streak a few games together, start moving up the table. They need to start figuring out how they're going to build their story later in this season. Nice to see Greco getting a couple of innings there as well. Like his curve is pretty obvious, right? You can kind of see it coming, but still pulls a couple of swings. I think that's maybe, the Syndicate not really being on top form. But if it's working, it's working, okay? It definitely has the speed to catch a few batters out. So we'll see how that develops as the season goes on. With the bases loaded in the 8th, he only allows 1 hit for an RBI, but he looks really composed, very comfortable in a tough spot. The Runners have a great closer there, and I think he's going to be able to get them out of difficult innings this year. I was really impressed with them. Runners win this one 5-2. Really good result for them. Okay, game 2, we have the Vanguards at Warlords at Swagger Center. So the Warlords here coming off 2 really big games, really on a roll, a really fun team to watch right now. The Vanguards a little bit less consistent, probably hoping to cause an upset on the road here. So let's have a look at it. Great start for Perron. Definitely helps having Dolphus in your outfield. making catches on the warning track, kind of getting him out of hot water a little bit. Anthony, slightly slower start to this game, lets up a couple of singles, nothing too dangerous. Both teams settling into that game really nicely. Trujillo breaks the deadlock in the second with a home run that barely scrapes over the wall. This seemed to set up the Warlords really, really well. Maybe a bit of knock to the confidence of the Vanguards too, but it doesn't really translate to any more runs. The Vanguards start letting the hits up, but they're keeping the runs off the board. They still had a lot of control up to that point until Trujillo comes back around in the fourth, second at bat of the game, gets another home run. This guy's coming out of nowhere. Anthony can't shut him down. She shut down Tojo, she shut down Antonescu. But Trujillo, with the bases loaded, gets them out of the inning. But Trujillo found a weakness and took it. Truth comes in for Anthony in the fifth, strikes out Trujillo with the bases loaded, gets him out of the inning. Truth does a much, much better job here than what Anthony could do. She has a really solid game, good relief pitching, not giving away much against a really solid team here. Comes out a bit early for Lewis, who gets his first of the season. You know what, Lewis, a little bit inconsistent here, some pretty wild pitches coming out of him, but he does enough to keep the Warlords in check. Honestly, it might have gone in the Vanguard's favour, stopped the Warlords being able to know what was coming. The Vanguards only get 2 hits, though, compared to the Warlords, a net 11, and that's just enough for the Warlords to win it. A fairly non-eventful game in the end, pretty solid from the Warlords. Another win on the board for them. The Vanguards losing to a couple of mistakes that really make the difference here, but you know what, overall, good defensive performances from both sides. The Warlords win this one 3-0. Gladiators at Crushers, Colonial Field. This was the third game of the week. Both teams coming off important wins here. Gladiators coming away to Colonial Plaza. You know, this is a tough place to go. It's important to get out of the box early, put some points on the board. That's exactly what they do. Polo sliding down those leaderboards lately, really struggling stats-wise. The Gladiators put 4 on the board in the first. The Crushers really struggling to deal with some big hits from the Gladiators. But you know what? It doesn't take long. In the bottom of the first, the Crushers load the bases, and Pizarro hits a grand slam, ties up the game. It was a crazy opening to a game. Absolutely crazy opening to a game. It's the sort of big hitting that we expect to see from the Crushers. I'm sure it gave them a lot of confidence to get back into this game so easily. Columbus follows it up in the second with a 2-run homer. Vespucci gets a 3-run homer. The Crushers just start hitting for fun. Tiberius comes out for Aurelian, who gets off to a much better start, gets them out of that inning pretty nicely. De Gama having a good game in the infield, manages a few awkward bounces to get runners out at first. Struggled a little bit more at the plate today, and Aurelian definitely had an answer for him. The changeup working really well for Aurelian today. Really nice to see him getting that locked in. Hudson comes in the fifth. You could really see Polo getting a little tired out there, struggling to keep the form. Lets up a couple of base hits. But you know what? Hudson manages to get them out of a tricky inning in the end. Okay, does a good job. Bottom of the sixth, Diocletian walks up to the mound. He looked a bit nervy today. Took a bit of time to settle. Makes sense. They're down 5 at this point. They've stopped the rot, but he has a good inning, and Caesar helps him out with a huge jump in center to get the third out. Even being down 5, the Gladiators still looked really, really good in this game. I still really liked the way that they were playing, the way they were approaching the game. But unfortunately, things start to slip after this. Diocletian lets the pressure get to him, gives up too many opportunities to get on base for the Crushers, walks a couple of batters, ends up having a pretty hard day. Justinian getting his first pitches of the year looked decent for a closer against such a big hitting team like the Crushers, but we need to see a bit more of him to see if he has more than just the four-seam and the slider. Nunez finishes it out for the Crushers. It's a 12-4 game. You know, they are making statements every single week, even with Polo not really being on form or maybe not really being that great of a starter. They seem to be able to manage this, unlike the Syndicate, for example, who can't seem to manage with Kepler starting for them. Okay, this was an important game. Okay, we've got Slammers at the Reds at Parque Yardenero. We're back under the Whites. Expecting an easy game for the Reds here. Should be straightforward. Seeing Thales back as the starter, you know what? I really want to see this guy have a good game. And in the first inning, he's doing well until Zedong steps up and blasts a home run to right field. Zedong is having one hell of a season, man. This guy's got a 3.18 average, 4 home runs, makes it 5 in this one. Just consistently good performance. His strikeout rate's a little high, but you know what? This guy makes up for it. He's going to hit big balls every single game. And you know what? Thales having a much better day after that first home run. He came into this game with a new confidence, got a little nervous when Zedong comes back up, but you know what? He handles him well. Maybe this is where we see Thales taking command of the mound, starting to take control of the team. I was much more impressed. I think there's still a lot of work to do, some big misplays at second base, but I can start to see the vision. I'm starting to see a team that could play and compete in this league, and they tie it up in the 6th. It's a slow and steady progression, but all of a sudden, what should have been, and in the first inning looked like an easy game for the Reds, starts to turn around. I didn't see too many mistakes from the Reds. They also didn't make the most of their successes either. Castro was pretty disappointing today. I expected more form against a right-handed pitcher, but it just didn't translate. Marks starts dropping off really quickly in the 7th. The Reds make a great decision, swap him out for King, but she allows one to come past her on a great double out to center. And then Hypatia gets a single that's handled poorly in right field to send another run in. I'm not sure why they're bringing in a left-handed pitcher here when Marks hasn't let that much slip. I would have gone for another right-hander here. It's working. It's keeping the slammers under control. As soon as you bring the lefty in, it all starts going wrong. There's things to think about there. But I think teams in this league, more often need to accept you've made a mistake. You've made an error. Pull your reliever a little bit quicker, get someone else in. This didn't work. King didn't work today. Get her out, get someone else in. You've got enough people in the bullpen to figure it out. They're more than happy to pull the starters in the 2nd, but relievers across the league seem to get a little bit longer than they should. Ho Chi Minh gets the Reds back into this one in the 8th against Democritus, who's pulled pretty quickly for Empedocles. So, okay, kind of ruining my theory there, but it's kind of the first time I've seen that happen so quickly. This looked a little bit more tactical, though, okay? In fairness to me here, right, I actually think that was a tactical change. I think Democritus was there to get out a couple of batters, right? Really, Empedocles is who you're going to go for if you're the slammers in this game. Seemed to make more sense to me. Pol Pot plays the final out for the Reds. Nice secure finish for them, with only being 1 run down. But you know what? They couldn't overcome Empedocles and the slammers. They get their first win. Okay, in the end, very impressive performance. Hopefully, this is the start of their season. They win 4-3. Okay, so it's really tight, but excellent for them. I hope we're going to see a little bit more. All right, Commanders at Guillotines. This should be a huge game. We're at peril point. Okay, the Commanders, top of the league. Guillotines having an incredible season. They're at home. You're expecting a really tight game here. Top of the table clash. 2 top pitchers going at it. Great start from the Guillotines. Nice double play. Gets them out at first. Potomacs respond well too. Both teams making it look pretty easy on the defense. Forks makes an uncharacteristic mistake in the 2nd. Jackson gets a home run. Puts the Commanders in the lead. Kind of what we're going to expect from this game, okay? 2 good defensive performances. Both teams picking up on the mistakes. We're going to see it go back and forth, or so we think. The Guillotines, just grinding the Commanders down, making Bush throw a lot of pitches. But they're not turning anything into runs in the early game. They were doing a much better job of keeping the pitch count down for Forks, capitalizing on a lot of double plays, but could not cope with Jackson. He was eating home runs for breakfast and making it look easy. Louverture getting a super unlucky ball in the 5th, not managing to stop a home run that barely bounces off the barrier. I feel like he shouldn't have been able to jump just an inch higher and get that one. It scrapes his mitt and just nips over the metal barrier. I think he's super, super unlucky. Taft follows it up with a much more sure home run, gives the Commanders a very comfortable 4-run lead. It's the first time we've seen Forks under this much pressure. And this is maybe something that Forks has looked so good because he's not come up against a team like this yet. And this really was the first time I've seen him under pressure. The Commanders were playing really, really well, not intimidated by that huge crowd and that sea of orange jerseys at Peril Point. They looked brilliant. We see Grant coming in the 7th inning. So far, the Commanders have kept the Guillotines shut down completely. Grant keeps that train moving. The Guillotines don't have an answer on offense. We get an awful fumble at third, which allows Zapata, to get an RBI single in the 8th. The Guillotines get one on the board from a Commander's error. So they bring in Amaru. Comes in to try and keep it to a 3-run difference in the 9th, and he does a phenomenal job. Really, really good decision from them. Really good tactics, but it's not enough. Go to the bottom of the 9th. The Guillotines can't make anything of their offensive innings, and the Commanders pull out a fairly convincing win in the end. It's hard to see at this point in the season who's going to beat the Commanders. They win 4-1. I really don't know who's going to beat them. Okay, we go Flushers at Nordics at the Corral. Okay, the Nordics desperate for a win at home here. Bonaparte and the Flushers are going to make it difficult for them. And you know what? It's a terrific start for the Flushers. Romanova sends one deep for a home run in the first inning. But you know what? Otherwise, Fairhair doing a pretty good job of controlling it. We know he can fall apart quickly, so it's really good to see him get on top of that one. The Flushers really back to form here too, banking another run in the second, not doing anything flashy, just getting the basics right. Fairhair didn't quite have the expertise needed to keep them down, and it takes until the 4th for the Nordics to get on the board with a really long home run. Nice to see them get anything out of this game. Scalagrimson comes in the end of the 5th. Overall, he does a great job of keeping the Flushers down. Really solid performance, exactly what the Nordics need at this point in the game. Bonaparte, he's got a great few innings in this game, starts to look shaky in the 6th, definitely not looking his best overall. It's been enough so far, okay? He still looks like one of the best pitchers in this league. Saying that, he does come out for Teresa. She has a really big curve that sometimes looks like it's going to hit the batter and then cuts into that strike zone at the last second. She was a really good substitute at this stage of the game. We haven't really seen very much of her, but she looks really, really good, and I can't wait to see more. Tryggvason comes in to finish it in the 9th for the Nordics. Red has a horrible fumble at first, allows the Flushers to load the bases, making things difficult for Tryggvason. But a great double play at home and first keeps them in this one. There's lots to do in the final inning. Netlinger, Boneless, Hadrada is the lineup. Netlinger goes down swinging. Boneless is walked. That brings in Charlemagne. Hadrada gets a double that's barely a fair ball, but 1 out. Charlemagne is under a lot of pressure. But he takes out Eriksson. They get the win. It's a 5-1 game in the end. Not awfully dramatic. All right, that's all of the games. Let's look at the table and see where we're at. The Potomac's are top of the league with 5 wins, 1 loss. The Royal Flushers in second, also on 5 wins and 1 loss. Compass Crushers 4-2. The Iron Warlords and the Guillotine Swingers in 4th and 5th, also on 4-2. Renaissance Runners in 6th on 3-3. Closely behind them is the Virtuous Vanguards, also on 3-3 in 7th. The Red Scares, the Nordic Nightmares, the Imperial Gladiators, all tied up 2-4. And then in 11th and 12th, propping up the league, the Syndicate and the Slammers, both on 1 win apiece. Let's look ahead to Week 7. All right, Week 7, we've got Warlords at the Runners. I'm giving this one to the Warlords. I think the Runners looked great this week, but I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome the Warlords. I think they're a really solid team. Perron is pitching the games of his life right now. He looks absolutely awesome. Warlords will win away. Crushers at Syndicate on Tuesday. The Crushers will win this one. The Syndicate look absolutely awful. They look terrible. They can't string a series of hits together. They look awful. The Crushers they're going to crush them. They're going to be great. Okay. They'll win on the road. Reds at Vanguards on Wednesday. I think this could be a really close game. The Reds haven't looked that great lately. The Vanguards also a little bit shaky. I'm going to give the win to the Vanguards. Home field advantage at Whacker's Wheel. I think they're going to take it. Guillotines at the Gladiators on Thursday. This should be really straightforward. Guillotines are going to win. Even on the road. They struggled against the Commanders a little bit, but against the Gladiators, I don't think they're good enough to pull it together. The Nordics at the Slammers. With the Slammers winning this week, and the Nordics not looking that great. I think it could be really close. I'm going to go Slammers to pull one out at home. In front of a home crowd. Start to string some things together. They looked a lot better this week than they have done. Flushers at Commanders then, our Saturday game. I can't see anyone beating the Commanders. I just can't. If they can beat the Guillotines on the road, at home against the Flushers, they're the two teams I expect can beat the Commanders. And if the Guillotines can, I think it's going to be hard for the Flushers. Okay, that is going to be it for this week. That's the end of week 6. I will see you next week for week 7.